On this channel, I've spent a lot of time talking about PC versions of classic games, emulating classic games, and the mods that fan developers cook up to improve the experience for games that aren't the best. Mega Man X6 or X7 or a plethora of Sonic games and Devil May Cry 2 come to mind. But mods and fan projects don't just exist for games people consider bad. In fact, many amazing games can have pretty in-depth modding scenes. Sonic Generations is a case I've talked about plenty of times where people built upon a great foundation to continue its lifespan well past what the designers intended. The Batman Arkham games also have plenty of mods. Like, have you ever wanted to ride the Bat Pod in Arkham Knight? Thanks to a modder, you can. It even has a battle mode. Point being is that making a good game even more fun is one of the many great things about mods. DMC mods are also quite common. On PC, playing Devil May Cry 5 in Turbo mode is a mod. Each game has a bunch of cosmetic mods too. DMC2, as I discussed in the past, has a Definitive Edition mod that sought out to improve the experience by a lot. Some might say there isn't much you can do for that game, but I thought it was impressive work nevertheless. But what happens when someone sets out to make an improvement project for what is commonly regarded as one of the best games ever made? Well, that is what Devil May Cry 3 Crimson is here to answer. Devil May Cry 3 Dante's Awakening is an all-time classic. It's one of the best comeback stories in gaming, as DMC2 was one of the most underwhelming game sequels of all time. DMC3 brought the series back to the standards set by the first Devil May Cry, but massively overhauled the combat design and style system into what you can find in new games like Devil May Cry 5. It's one of the most influential action titles of all time and raised the bar for both combat in games but also production value, as its cinematics were top class. But if a game is so popular, can you improve it? Well, hindsight is 20/20, they say. DMC3 might be an all-time classic, game of the decade material, but that didn't make it a perfect game or impossible to improve upon. Freedom of choice in battle and minimizing the time a player will spend in the menus are some of the best things an action game can strive for, so Devil May Cry 4 improved upon that by a lot. You see, in DMC3, Dante had different styles where his gameplay would be tailored toward a specific attribute, like dodging and agility, or melee combat, or blocking and defense. DMC4 let you switch between all of those on the fly in the middle of gameplay, unlike Vanilla 3, which only let you do that between missions or at the shop. So right there, that's already one thing that would make DMC3 a different game, which is why it was modded into DMC3 a long time ago. You can get a mod for the DMC HD collection called DDMK, which contains cheats and cool extra features for DMC 1, 2, and 3. But among many of those features is getting all your weapons unlocked and style switching for Devil May Cry 3. Even Capcom saw the potential of these features getting added to the game because the 2020 Nintendo Switch version of Devil May Cry 3 also had style switching and all your weapons available in the new Freestyle mode. So if the precedent had already been set for this game getting improved by those two basic features, what does DMC3 Crimson bring to the table? Well, I'd say this one wanted to go way further than DDMK. Let's let the lead developer of the C Team, Birth Rage, explain it in the initial trailer.
Hack, slash, wait, that's sprint? Guardfly? Inertia? Hello everyone, this is Birth Rage. It's a big pleasure to be here. It's been a long time. I'm here to announce to you an extremely ambitious DMC3 mod. Welcome to C Team's Devil May Cry 3 Crimson. Crimson is a monolith of a mod for the game that aims to completely overhaul the game's experience and modernize DMC3 as much as possible.
So if you're hyped for that, which I know you must be, you're probably wondering how to install it. Here's what you need. A copy of the Devil May Cry HD collection on Steam, and you need to download Crimson from the GitHub link in the description. It claims that if you have DDMK installed, it will still work, however personally, it did not for me. The install of Crimson just didn't work and would tell me it failed after multiple attempts, so I just deleted my DDMK files and tried again, and it worked. Crimson's install comes with a dedicated installer, and also the files you can drag and drop depending on how you'd rather do it. It's a very simple process either way. Once you do it, you're good to go. As I was immediately greeted with this new title screen that looks miles better than the title screen that most versions of DMC3 have given us. Which is a nice way to start. Although, before I started playing, I also found this DMC2 Dante mod for 3 on Nexus Mods and grabbed that shit immediately. Figured I'd mention that since I used it for most of my playthrough. People who haven't played Crimson before might have been wondering if that came with Crimson or not, and so I thought I'd answer that up top. Looks cool though, doesn't it? I don't know, it's just my favorite Dante design, and seeing it do all the cool Dante stuff that would never be possible in 2 is kind of entertaining to me. But I'm getting off subject. Back to what Crimson offers. It's quite a long list, but I'll focus on what was most relevant to my experience with the mod. I'm assuming the first thing you noticed when watching footage of this was the camera. Crimson has changed the game from the fixed camera angles of the original game to a third-person camera. You don't quite get the full smooth camera rotation that you'd have playing DMC5, especially when looking up and down, but you can spin it around fully. With this, you can see parts of the levels you never did before, like this enemy on top of this ledge. The ground beneath him isn't textured because you never would have seen it with a fixed camera. This is a change I could take or leave. I know many can get annoyed by fixed cameras in games with analog stick control since the camera angle changing can occasionally mess with the controls, but others love the fixed camera angles for their cinematic quality. I can see both sides. And I can think of moments where I definitely missed that cinematic element, like when Dante is going up to the top of the tower in Mission 7. It doesn't hit quite as hard when you have the same close-up angle as the rest of the game, compared to that cinematic wide shot. But I thought it was an interesting new way to experience the world of DMC3 that made it feel like a title made in the modern age. The HUD and UI have been redesigned to look like Devil May Cry 5. The health bar, style icons, devil trigger, it's all DMC5. The style meter gradually filling up the letter always looked cooler than the word with a bar underneath it, so I think this looks pretty sick and fits right in with the game. As does the DMC5 style announcer being worked into 3. You can also sprint in this game like 4 and 5. The areas in 3 aren't as big as those, but it's useful when doing those segments of running back and forth through the tower. But as the reveal trailer showed, the biggest changes to Crimson are the game mechanics. Not in the sense where it feels like a different game or combat system, but that many things have been tweaked to play like later games. Inertia was a big one I noticed immediately. The momentum of whatever action Dante is doing will carry over into whatever action you do next. This is how it was in DMC 4 and 5. In the original 3, doing Dante's air combo with Rebellion, followed by a Trickster dash and Rainstorm would see Dante freeze in midair, since that's what Rainstorm was programmed to do. But in those later games, the Trickster dash followed by Rainstorm would allow you to go over many enemies while shooting them from above. It adds a free-flowing element to the combat that wasn't there before. And now, you can do all that in DMC 3. Crimson also has more generous jump cancel timing, so you can keep your air combo game going a lot easier in this new mode than you could in the original. My gameplay of Crimson doesn't look that different than how I played on DDMK or the Switch, but that's because that's where my skill level's at. But I've seen some absolutely wild shit from the community on YouTube and Twitter. If you're a high-level player of DMC 3, 4, or 5, you will have a blast playing this. But that's just the beginning in terms of optimizations that made this feel like the ultimate DMC 3 experience. Something added to the Switch version was this weapon wheel. Instead of scrolling through weapons one at a time, you would be able to hold the weapon switch button and scroll through the weapons on the wheel with the right analog stick, allowing you to switch between different weapons even faster. Crimson also brings this into the mix, and I'm glad it did, because I thought that weapon wheel was the main advantage that the Switch version had over all others. Some attacks have been remixed as well. The Rebellion level 3 Swordmaster move where you dash towards enemies, that's been switched to pushing forward on the stick instead of back. And the move where you toss the sword has been set to pushing the stick back instead of forward. The spinning kick move that Beowulf could do in the air is now just the weapon's Swordmaster attack in midair. I always thought this move looked cool, but I could never find a good chance to use it for most of the OG games, since you could only do it after an uppercut, which would wipe out most of an enemy's health bar anyway. Now I'm just using it all the time, as you can segue from that into a midair uppercut. You can also now do guard flying in Crimson. I said in my DMC4 video that I've never actually done guard flying before, but I know it's a big element of high-level DMC4 gameplay that top players of that game were sad to see omitted in 5, and now Crimson has it as well. But speaking of Royal Guard though, this has been given a new element too. In 3 and 4, getting hit while holding the guard button would lower your health bit by bit. In DMC5, it would eat into your Devil Trigger gauge instead, so you'd be safer while missing Royal Guard blocks than previous games, but at the cost of your DT, which would make you more powerful if you needed it. DMC3 Crimson brings this system into the 3rd game, which is especially useful because it helps you practice your guard timing against this horde of unforgiving enemies. I was playing with a maxed out save file, but I still think DMC3 is plenty challenging, despite this series of changes that make it seem like the game has been made easier. I would say these changes don't make the game easier per se, rather they just change the game to make it feel more like a modern action game. If you play on hard mode or higher, you'll still need to bring your A game or you'll die repeatedly. But if you don't like any of these changes or just don't like a few of them and like others, the best part of it is how customizable it is. Just by pressing the delete key on your keyboard, you'll bring up this menu. You can change the game in one click. On the front page, you can effortlessly switch between getting the vanilla DMC3 Special Edition, which has the fixed camera angles and only 2 weapons in one style at a time, and then you can change it to the Style Switch mode, which plays like DDMK, or the Nintendo Switch version, which is the original game just with those extra bells and whistles. Or you can play Crimson. But then, if you look into the options, you can customize your experience much more by changing the select things you want. Don't like the sprint, or inertia, or the camera, or any of that, but like the other things, click a few buttons and you'll have the game tailored exactly to your liking. This is the kind of thing that makes PC games the best experience, and it's the perfect thing for a fan project to do. If you have the game on PC, there's really no reason not to install this. You get to experience DMC3 in a whole new way and can effortlessly bring the game back to how it was before or tinker with it to get it just how you want it. I think it's a very cool thing for any fan of Devil May Cry. It's not perfect yet. For some reason it crashed on me whenever I was playing as Virgil, but I was also fine with that because I think Virgil isn't really that fun to play in this game anyway. But for the rest of the game, I just think it's the definitive DMC3 experience, breathing new life into an already goated game. And I also hope this can satisfy anyone who hopes that DMC3 should get a remake. I see a lot of discourse on remaking DMC1 or 4 or even 3. I'm not even anti-remake inherently, but I feel like mods, such as Crimson, are the perfect middling point. I don't think there's anything wrong with these old, great games being played as is, but the mod allows us to play it with the mechanics and systems of later games while also preserving the title in every other way, with a convenient way to switch back to the original experience. Personally, I'm more than fine with that, rather than getting a full-budget do-over of a game I already liked. But, for now, that's all I really have to say on it. And credit to the C team for putting this together. I really enjoyed my time with it and look forward to playing it more once the video is done. But as for the audience, I hope you all enjoyed this quick little video, because some pretty cool stuff is on the horizon this summer, and I hope everyone's looking forward to it. But that's about all the time we have for today, so I'll close by saying what I always do. If you made it this far into the video, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.